bridge collapsed. The mountain road washed out. All the signs are obscured by fog. Your only directions are detours. Eventually it dawns on you. Sometimes you need to get lost to discover where you're supposed to be. Welcome to Merlin's Barn.
Welcome to another episode of Merlin's Barn, broadcasting from Fort Blanket, south of the Yukon. And tonight you have myself, Merlin. And Tasha. And once again,
No, Matt,
because he is still in the land of cheese, which Tasha hates.
Yes, her.
Tasha's
Yeah.
the anti-cheese. Which I find odd because there's just so much cheese that we eat here on things. So
There's a difference between cheese being a part of something, like a pizza or macaroni and cheese, and like a cheese stick. Like, I would rather die than eat a cheese stick, honestly. It gives me issues when the kids ask me to open them at school.
Tasha's nightmare is a cheese shop in Wisconsin.
Truly.
Tasha's dream would be the cheese shop in Monty Python, where there was no actual cheese. All right, we will open with the usual disappointment cookies. Someday we'll hopefully stumble into a batch of exciting ones, but we're just sort of. I think my favorite one that I've seen as of late was the mental health one we found an episode or two ago, which was maybe that's why we have a podcast. So if you want me to start?
Yeah, I was going to say, you want to go first this time?
Okay, I'll go first. Plastic everywhere. Crunchy vanilla cookie. Your next Chinese meal will bring you more cookies. I don't think that's the fortune, actually.
Oh.
The fortune reads, on this Wednesday, seize the day and make the most out of every moment. It being...
It's Wednesday. Have you done your job?
Wednesday.
Did you fulfill your fortune?
At 8:35, and I'm not sure if I have seized every moment. I've appreciated a lot of them, but I don't know. Was that a fortune, or was that just...
I don't know, because today is Wednesday, so most of it's already happened.
Yeah, so I don't know how I feel about these dated ones. I've also gotten ones for next April, do this, and I'm just I'm not going to remember this next April, let alone in 6 hours.
Sunday.
Yeah, I got one saying, telling me I'm going to have a nice Sunday. I won't remember that tomorrow either. Okay, what do you got?
A really broken cookie, and this isn't one that I threw, and yeah. Let's see. But this is shattered cookie. The future's a blank canvas. Paint it as you wish.
Not a fortune. Although still
it hurts
better
when
than...
you have an art degree you can barely use.
Well, that was a little bit aimed at you, maybe.
I keep getting very pointed ones.
Help me! I'm trapped in a Chinese in a Chinese cookie factory. Let me out! Or the one that was telling us that we need to follow the rules of the government. Yeah. Thank you, Communist China, for your disappointment cookies.
What was the one the other day where I was so upset that I actually ate the fortune?
I don't remember, but it was a good reaction. All right, let's open Matt's and finish off with the disappointment cookies for the day. The excitement. We need a drum machine. That is sad, but you tried, and we'll give you a fortune cookie for that.
Oh, no.
Fortune for Matt is no need to worry. You will always have everything that you need. The other side says learn Chinese. Very good. I'm not going to try and read that because I'll screw it up.
It won't be very good.
However, your lucky numbers are 28, 14, 35, 32, 49, and 9. Go play those now.
Oh, 9 is my favorite number.
I just like 9 because you can flip it over and it's 6. Or 0 is nice too because you can flip it and it's still 0. And Bob is an amazing name because it's the same forwards as backwards. All right, so last episode, whatever number it was, we introduced you to the Xenia, Ohio saga. And we're returning once again to Xenia, Ohio. So welcome to Xenia Part 2, Places That You Shouldn't Go To. Honestly, I'm sure there's something nice there somewhere, and I don't want people to drive the 8 hours from Xenia and hunt me down.
Do you think anyone from Xenia is going to really care that much?
I don't know, they might. I think there's more likely that somebody in Xenia is going to care because it's got a little bit of a small town thing going than anybody from South Bend, who I'm pretty sure would just sit there and go, yeah, it sucks, nuke it. I can't find anybody who actually has a good thing to say about South Bend.
Brennan managed to write essentially a short horror story centering around South Bend, so...
It should have centered around the Studebaker Electric Fountain, which will
I'm
be
really
a
upset
whole
that it didn't, honestly. Brennan,
episode
get
in
your
itself.
act together. I'm sorry, I love you, Bren.
And if you don't know who Brandon is, then you really, really should listen to our favorite podcast, The Ghost Story Guys, which is honestly what introduced me to podcasts because I had no clue what they were. One of my friends said, you need to listen to this. And then I started, and I've been an addict ever since. So, all right. So, back in Xenia. Last episode, we'd gotten to Xenia. We had set up at this at Pee Wee Martin's 100th birthday. There were guys jumping out of planes. There were hotels that were a mess. And we had the suggestion that we pack up camp and that we find something else to do on the Saturday because it was going to pour, just absolutely pour rain. So Friday we got back to our hotel and we'd already had wonderful experiences with the Hotel Ramadi. We got in and I remember Roger and I walked up to the elevators. We hit the button and the one on the left opens up and we punched in our floor and it stopped, as far as I could tell, in between floors for a little bit without saying anything. Much unlike the one I had in Disney World, which announced it was broken and was glass and you could see when it stopped between floors. That was upsetting.
Oh dear.
Yes.
I'm sensing some trauma.
It was a talking elevator that explained it was broken. So this one didn't tell us anything, and then it moved up and it dropped us off a floor or two above where we wanted to be. At which point we hit the button to go down, got in the other elevator. I remember the following morning when we were down in the lobby, somebody was heading towards the one on the left, and we just warned them, we're just like, that one's haunted, and it's going to take you to whatever floor it feels like. Whereas if you go with the one on the right, you might actually get to where you want to be. Not sure. Oh, and another wonderful thing was because their diner, whatever, was closed in the Hotel Ramadi, they had doggy bags for your continental breakfast. I really don't know what was in them, but they were these very crumpled paper bags that they would shake at you as you were going out the door, asking, "Don't you want your doggy? Don't you want your doggy bag?" And Roger and I were like backing out with our hands up, just going, "No, no, 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 we don't want it."
We went to Bob Evans instead.
Bob Evans was beautiful. That was wonderful. That was a
At
great
least that time.
Yeah, it's a Bob Evans where our waitress was not arrested. We had an amazing waitress too.
She was really sweet, wasn't she?
Yeah, so we had a great breakfast, and then we headed to Dayton, Ohio, to see the National Airforce Museum at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. This thing is amazing. It's huge.
Oh, that's like the one time I got to spend like riding in a vehicle with Roger, just like the two of us back and forth thing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It was nice. We were just chatting, getting to know Roger better. It's good.
We'll probably end up dedicating a podcast episode to either just Roger or Roger and our friend John, who were both really good buddies and used to hang out here at the barn all the time. In fact, John was the one who found the barn, and then Roger and John were the ones who helped me get going with all the plans on it. So, yeah, we had an awesome breakfast at Bob Evans. We headed down to the National Air Force Museum, and we were wearing, most of us at least had these camouflage oversmock type things called Denizen smocks that the Canadians and the British had in World War II. And we had our very distinctive red berets.
We even had masks that Roger had screen printed with the cap badge on it.
Yeah, so Roger had made these beautiful masks that were the same colors as our unit berets. So some of us were wearing those. And As we went in and started spreading out throughout the museum, we started to have a fun time with just the docents in the museum would just see us and notice the uniforms, and I got in like cool conversation after cool conversation. I don't know if you had that happen, Tasha.
Not really, but I'm mostly quiet and scared of people. Once again, I kind of just sat and tried to draw planes at some points.
A few of us made it through, like there's a big World War One section, made it over to the World War II section where there's some people know the plane, the bomber, the Memphis Belle, it's there.
Pretty lady.
And we've walked past that one, and I think it's Roger and our friend Peter and and we're looking at this other one. I forget which, I don't know if it was a Mitchell or something, I can't remember. I should have looked it up. But we're looking at this bomber, and this fellow in a blue shirt, which is what all the docents were wearing, walks up and says, "Do you want to get a look up inside? There's some neat radio equipment in there." And we're just like, "Sure." And so he takes the rope down, and we go in, and we go into the plane, and we're looking up inside. We're just like, "Oh, this is cool." And we come back out, and he clips the rope back, and he says, "Do you want to get inside the bomb bay of the plane that of Boxcar?" Boxcar? And he says, "Yeah, the plane that dropped the atom bomb on Nagasaki." I think I got it right. I think it's Nagasaki.
It's Nagasaki.
Yeah. And we're like, "Oh my God, that would be amazing." And then I look at his shirt, and his shirt doesn't say docent, doesn't say volunteer. It says museum director. I was like, "Oh, the director is showing us around some things." Okay, and so we're walking over to the giant bomber that dropped the atomic bomb on Nagasaki. And I'm texting everybody, all of our friends who are there, going, "The museum director is taking us inside the bomb bay of Boxcar. Come here, quickly." And so we get over there, and he pulls back the rope, and we get to stand in the space. And I know people can have epic amounts of debate over this, reasoning, right or wrong, etc. Beyond all that, this is a piece of history, and it's something that changed history. And we're standing inside the bomb bay that carried that bomb that changed history.
Something that's been discussed at my workplace of all things a lot is the sense of awe. And I think that is one of the times I can absolutely say, like, I was standing in the bomb bay of this giant plane. I think I ended up crawling around in part of it at one point. And I just remember looking up and like having that like whole like wow moment. Like you couldn't say anything, you couldn't think much. You just knew you were so close, technically inside of something that literally changed the course of history.
Yeah, I think awe is a great that's a great word to use there. And so he took us in that, and we get back out. We all get back out, and we're lined up and talking. And he puts the rope back on the stanchion, and then he turns to Roger. Roger had a cane, and he looks at Roger, and we think he's done with us at this point because he's the museum director. And he looks at Roger and he says, "Sir, would you be offended if I got you a mobility scooter?" And Roger looks at him and says, "No, why?" And Mr. Tillotson, yes, David Tillotson, director of the Airforce Museum, he looks at Roger. He says, "Because there's 5 more hours of museum to go through today." And he says, "And I don't think that you want to walk all of it." At which point it sank in with most of us that the museum director for the National Air Force Museum, one of the most massive museums out there, was going to give us a 5-hour private tour.
And I think everything that we saw was something he hand selected as either he realizing it would be interest to us, or he knew it was something like really cool and weird and that he could let us play with.
Yeah, and that was like he took us to. He tried to. He talked about. He tried to find airborne things. He tried to find things for that talked about females in the military. Then there were just like favorite things of his, like the plane that had been surrendered in, I think it was the Korean War.
Oh, what's that story? Like,
I think
the pilot flew it back to an American base and was just like, I don't want to go back.
Yeah, the pilot surrendered himself in the plane during the Korean War, and then he used to come to the actual pilot, the North Korean, used to come to the National Air Force Museum to visit his plane.
Didn't they have like a cardboard cutout of him essentially, since he was no longer with us?
Yeah, I believe there was a cardboard cutout. And then he would,
so that he'd always be with his plane.
He would open up different vehicles and say, "Hey, do you want a photo in this?"
Yes.
And so we'd climb into a half track, or we'd climb into something else. And one of my favorite things he did was when he sort of pulled a trick on us. And we're walking along, and he's looking at the ground, and we walk into the massive silo that has all the rockets in it, standing upright.
God, yes.
And our heads whip back as because he's just looking at the ground like we're walking into something else, and all of us are surprised, and our heads whip back, and he just starts laughing. And I look at him. He says, I do that on purpose. He says, I look at the ground. He says, I sort of gauge whether people have been here before and whether they know what they're walking into. He says, just to see their heads whip back and see that reaction.
Oh, that made me remember. One of my favorite things that they had was a lot of the experimental stuff that never actually got off the ground per se.
Oh yeah.
Like they had like literally take your basic UFO shape. They had stuff like that. Like it was just so fun. It had like everything had a little story with it. It was so
I forgot about the UFO stuff.
Those were so fun.
And we will post up, you'll have to take a look at the Instagram, but when this episode airs, we will, for a couple days, post up pictures from this trip, because, so you get to see some of what we saw if you haven't been to that museum. And if you do go to Dayton, Ohio, definitely go to the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base Museum, because it is an experience.
If I recall, they had FDR's private presidential plane, correct?
I can't remember if it was FDR's or Eisenhower's, I'm not sure.
Well, the reason I'm remembering this one is because it has something specific for wheelchair.
Okay, yeah.
I believe it was FDR's, and I remember being, like, obsessed with the fact that they fashioned something elevator-like for his wheelchair in the plane.
I think I remember that. I think by that end of my brain was just sort of so.
We were all like poofed down. Haley was on the floor, like.
Yeah. That was. We were.
She was also wearing like the most god awful shoes.
Very impressed with Mr. Tillotson, and just a huge thank you again for that massive, unexpected gift, which was just beautiful. And I think after that we headed back, and we did the same restaurant as the night before, I think.
I think we probably did Applebee's. The Applebee's was a steadfast choice.
Yeah, it worked. It was good. Food was good. The service was amazing. It was probably one of the best things in Xenia, Ohio.
It's like trying to say Cthulhu.
I could say Cthulhu fine, but Xenia, I don't know why. And that was So that was a lot of the Xenia trip, and that night we went back to our hotel rooms. Roger and I got to experience the wonder of the air conditioner destroying itself some more. And the following day we headed home, which we did not realize was going to become another amazing adventure. So we head back. The first thing the most wonderful thing that happened on the way back was, we did the same thing as when we came out. Tasha and Haley switched vehicles every now and then, so I had Haley with me for the first bit, and Haley coined the most Canadian-sounding, non-Canadian phrase I've ever heard.
Oh my God, yeah.
Which we were talking about something about that we'd seen at the National Air Force Museum, and Haley just goes, "That was totally off the moose, eh?"
So good, and so iconic.
I think I almost drove off the road because I'm just sitting there going, "That is the most Canadian-sounding, non-Canadian phrase I've ever heard. We need to make bumper stickers of that."
We're working on it. I think Nick has a design.
Okay, so I think there are possible designs for this.
There's a handful of designs out there for us at this point.
Merch! At some point we'll have merch. And so most of the drive back is not ridiculously exciting, except for as I think we reach maybe about a third to halfway point, we pull into a gas station to gas up the Dodge, which once again was just pieces of rust holding hands.
That's a beautiful way to describe that truck.
It's very much like some houses, which are termites holding hands. And so Paul fills up the truck. I go inside and I look out and I see a literal lake of gas spreading underneath this truck.
So bad.
And at that point, we have Paul's truck with the towing our big unit trailer with all of our gear in it. And then we have my Jeep with gear in it. And then Roger's in a minivan. He's continued onwards at this point because he thinks we don't need him. So we're sort of panicking because I'm like, okay, I think the truck just died. How do we get people home?
Gas everywhere. Sorry, gas station. Please go get some. I think they used what? Was it wood shavings? Sawdust.
They had something for that sort of disaster.
You either use sawdust or use cat litter. I think it was sawdust.
Yeah, I don't know what they're legally supposed to use, but they had whatever they were supposed to use.
Fair enough.
So, and we move the truck, and Roger's coming back, and the truck stops leaking, and we realize that it just liked to spit out a whole pile of gas whenever you filled it. So, heck, let's keep on going.
Hello.
So we wait for Roger, head out again, lose Roger, who went off on his own merry expedition where he found childhood things that he hadn't seen in a decade or two, and actually had quite a fun time texting us on what he was finding.
That was cute.
I think that may have been the last time he talked to his dad on the phone. He found some place his dad had taken them when they were children, and immediately called his dad up. But we're bopping along, and Tasha's with me in the black Jeep.
Of course, this is the time where I switch and have my friend ride with my uncle.
And Haley's riding with Paul. We're going through this valley, and I'm like, oh, it smells like wood stoves. I'm just sort of enjoying the wood stove smoke until we notice the cloud of smoke billowing out around our trailer, which has all of our valuable World War II stuff in it. And did we honk at them, or did they just suddenly notice that they were on fire?
All of the above. I think there's probably a honk. There was noticing. I probably texted them.
Yeah, so they pull over. We pull over behind them. Luckily, it wasn't the trailer that was on fire. What it was this truck. I would like to say was so rusty, but since it still exists, this truck is so rusty that one of the only things that was solid on it was the bed liner, that big rubber insert that you put into beds. It had rusted out underneath the bed liner. And underneath the rust holes underneath the bed liner were the remains of what had been a muffler that had rusted in just a way that it was shooting all of the heat through the holes at the bottom of the bed where the holes were.
You know what was laying in the bed of the truck at that point?
Our tarps had gotten wet. Our World War II dated canvas tarps that we used for flies had gotten wet, and they were piled in the trailer. And the pressure...
Truck bed.
Yeah, the truck bed. And the pressure of them pressing down on the bed insert caused the exhaust heat to build up to the point where it dried them and set them on fire.
We get to the point we're all pulled over. I'm forever annoyed about this part. You all were kind of just, like, we got everything out of the truck bed. You all stared at it for a second, and while I'm, like, stomping, like, hi, this is on fire. We need to, like, put it out?
Yes.
On the side of the highway?
I think you're the one who realized that there were bottles of water somewhere.
I was about to say that, yes.
Yeah.
We had water in the back of the trailer. I think Roger had gotten us both bottles, and I think we had, like, water fountain container.
Oh, the giant 5-gallon jugs.
Yeah.
So we put it out with that. And that seemed like, we had a nice little stop at IHOP after that. That seemed like the end of it. When we did get home from this trip, we found that the roof vent somehow or other had left the trailer sometime on the journey as well. Just to add insult to injury.
Of course.
But we did make it back after the fires. The tarps looked like they had been strafed by the Jerrys. And then further bad things happened to them, so we had no use for them anymore.
Yeah.
But that's
That was Xenia, Ohio.
That's your two-parter on Xenia, Ohio, which really probably is not at fault for most of this, but it's Xenia, Ohio.
It's fun to blame.
It's fun to blame, and remember the tornado hit there once, and that's
just once
about what it's got going on for it. So, but the Applebee's and the Bob Evans were really nice. I'll give them that. Hotel Ramadi, don't go there. The best thing that could happen to that place is
another tornado.
A Moab, a mother of all bombs. Just drop it on the thing, flatten it, get rid of it. There's just, the skanky family-owned motel down the road from it was a far cry nicer than this freaking chain disaster. No, cigarette burns and all. It was much better than the Hotel Ramadi. Don't go to Xenia. All right. Thank you all.
Dayton's fine, though.
Yeah, Dayton.
Go see the museum, please.
Yes, Dayton was fine. And once again, thank you very much to Director David Tillotson for that amazing tour that day. That was
life changing, honestly.
Yeah, it was a life experience. If anything that we've said tonight has made you think of an adventure you went on, a detour that you took, people that you met, places that you've been, that you think we'd like to hear about, that you think other people might like to hear about, please send it in to us. What's that?
You want to annoy other people with.
That you want to annoy other people with. Send it in to us. Best way to do it is by our email account, merlinsbarn@gmail.com. That's merlinsbarn@gmail.com. You can also find us on Substack, where we have our main page where you can subscribe. And paid subscribers are a great thing because everything that we're using has been donated. We are literally, if you look at the Instagram photos, broadcasting from Fort Blanket, south of the Yukon. Feel free to send us stories. We would love to share those. We'd love to build this up and make it a community effort. You all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is, and we hope to talk to you soon.
Sweet dreams.